This is Teacher Peter at Perfect English coming at you with a brand new video series that we're going to be starting today. This video series is focusing on some of the more basic tenses that you learn in your first couple of years learning English at a cram school like Perfect English. Today, we're going to be focusing on present simple tense, otherwise called simple present. Both of these names are accurate. So maybe at your school, you might hear present simple and you may also hear simple present. It's the same thing and both of the names are correct in different communities. So let's get started. The very first thing we're going to be looking at is simple present. So you can see these four different bullet points up top. First, we're going to be talking about when you use it, the sort of situations that present simple or simple present tense can come up in. Next, we'll talk about how we use it, and that's sort of like the grammar aspect of it. We're not going to do a full deep dive into it. We're not going to analyze in too much detail the different ways that it works with affirmative sentences, negative sentences, and questions, but that will be evident, I hope, in the examples section that comes up, as well as the practice questions. So I will do a little bit of explanation and substitution practice for each of the examples and questions that are going to be coming up. Without any further ado, why don't we get started? So the very first thing we're focusing on is when you use it. Present simple tense is used when you're talking about things that happen or don't happen in repeating patterns. That means that it's predictable, and these things are things that happen all the time. In fact, all the time is a key word for this. We can also say always, sometimes, usually, never, every once in a while, on the weekends, once a week, twice a week. Anything that signifies a repeating pattern works. Now, like I said before, never is also included in this. So something that doesn't happen in a repeating pattern, that just simply doesn't occur, also is okay to use simple present tense. We also sometimes talk about the way things are right now in simple present tense, and the most common example would be how we talk about our feelings. So feelings are usually adjective words that describe how you feel, how you are. When I ask how are you, I'm asking about your feelings. All right, so if I say how are you, you're going to answer in simple present tense. You're going to say I am fine, which is one way of answering in simple present tense. Or you're going to say, I'm good. Okay, so these are words that work with simple present tense. So even if you know only sentences like I'm fine, thank you, and you know a little bit of simple present tense. Now, let's talk more about how do you use it? How do you use this tense? Well, take a look at the slide here, and you can see he, she, and it are the ones in this form that have usually a special arrangement for them. So he, she, it, we will take our verb and we will add s to it. So he play, no. We say he plays. Okay? She push, no. We say she pushes. Okay, that is how it works in present simple tense. However, we also have situations where we have they, we, and you, and in those it's really easy. Also with I, by the way, they, we, you, and I, you won't even change the verb. You will just say I play, I dance, I sing, I talk, I listen, I feel. All of these will stay unchanged. But there is one more little thing to talk about, and that is our be verbs, and also other verbs like do and does. Okay, so our be verbs are is for he, she, and it, am for I, and for they, we, and you, we have are. it is a very good idea for me to remember to mention right now that when we are talking about he, she, and it, and they, we, and you can also use nouns that express the same ideas. For example, look at he, she, and it real quick. All right, he can be also the name of a boy, Tom. So Tom is, or Tom feels. It follows the same verb plus s or is rule as a he. The she, like Sally, is a girl's name, so Sally is or Sally dances. We will add that s or use that is be verb. How about they? How can we create a they? Okay, we can say a group, like the boys, okay? The girls, Bob and Mark. That's two people, so that's a they. So Bob and Mark are, or Bob and Mark dance, not dances. All right, so keep that in mind. Then we have I. Now the only thing different or special about I is that I says I am, but otherwise it follows the same rules as they, we, and you. And I can't just use my name, because if I say Peter, then that becomes a he, not an I. So keep that in mind. So even if I speak in the third person and I say Peter, I will say Peter is or Peter feels. All right, let's take a look at some example sentences really quick. It's not a lot of examples. Like I said, this is not totally comprehensive, but it is going to help us out a little bit. So let's take a look. The girl goes to school on Fridays. So here we have an example of how the girl is a she. So she goes, verb plus s. Go is the verb, so change it to goes. The girl goes where? To school. When? On Fridays. The girl goes to school on Fridays. Let's look at number 2. He walks. Walks. Again, he. So we have the verb walk. Add s. He walks to the bus stop every morning. Again, he does what? Walks. Where? To the bus stop. When? Every morning. Next, we watch TV in the evening once a week. Follows the same pattern. Who does what? When? In this case, when is actually a two-parter. In the evening, once a week. All right, let's look at a very easy one. 3 words. I am happy. Good. That's it. Now we'll talk about how to substitute that and change some things with it in just a little bit here. And then the next one. You are not ugly. Great. All right, so let's look at the very first sentence here. And we kind of broke it down into the little parts, talking about who, does what, where, and when. All right, so let's take a look. The girl goes to school on Fridays. We're looking at this one right here. The girl goes to school on Fridays. Let's change the noun. So the subject of the sentence becomes, let's say, the boy. The boy goes to school on Fridays. Great. All right, now let's change the verb to something that still makes sense. How about drives? That will still make sense. The boy drives to school on Fridays. Great. Now let's change the place. Let's change school to the post office. The boy drives to the post office on Fridays. And then finally, let's change the time. Let's change it to on the weekend. The boy drives to the post office on the weekend. And now we have created a totally different sentence where none of the parts are the same. But the sentence basically is the same. All we do is we change the individual pieces. It's very predictable. English grammar, for the most part, is pretty easy to express yourself with, and present simple tense is an example of this. All right, now let's take a look at some practice questions real quick. I'm going to go ahead and leave that underlined there. What do you do on the weekends? What do you do on the weekends? Now you'll notice that questions in English are a little bit different from sentences. If we were to go back, we'd see that the words that start these sentences here under questions are usually words like what and how and do, okay? We flip the order of some words, and sometimes we use words in sentences that we don't normally use. So if your word starts with who, what, how, when, why, where, those are for sure going to be question words, okay? So let's take a look at the first one. What do you do on weekends? A weekend is like Saturday and Sunday. So what do you do on weekends? Probably you sleep late, right? You don't get up at 6 a.m. like to go to school. You get up maybe at 7 or 8, or some of you maybe even later than that. So what do you do on weekends? I wake up late on weekends. Okay, many possible answers to this question. What do you do on weekends? I eat lunch with my family on weekends. Okay, what do you do on weekends? I go to the park on weekends. Do you notice the pattern? I do the action on weekends. I blah 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 on weekends. What do you do on weekends? I blah 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 on weekends. It's very simple. English is very much like this most of the time, where simple sentences can be just kind of like mirrored right back at you. Okay, so what do you do on weekends? I blah 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 on weekends. I go to sleep late on weekends. Okay, how do you get to school every day? How do you get to school every day? I drive to school every day. I walk to school every day. I take a bus to school every day. I ride my bike to school every day. I run to school every day. All of these are acceptable answers. And again, you'll notice that it's I blah 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 to school every day. There are other ways to answer this question. A lot of people in Taiwan learn the way to say I go to school every day by bus or by car. That's also correct. Let's look at number 3 here. Do you like to eat pizza? Now, at our school, we often train our kids when they're just learning. Do you? Yes, I do. Or, do you? No, I don't. It's a way to remember when you see a sentence start with do you, you know that you're going to start your answer with yes, I do, or no, I don't. So let's practice that here. Do you like to eat pizza? Yes, I like to eat pizza. No, I don't like to eat pizza. Or 2 sentences. Yes, I do. I like to eat pizza. Works like that. We can change that. We can change do you like to watch TV? Yes, I do. I like to watch TV. Do you like to read books? Yes, I do. I like to read books. Do you like to take tests? No, I don't. I don't like to take tests. All of these work like that, and these are all simple present. I mentioned before the next question. How are you? How are you? I'm fine. I'm great. I'm wonderful. I'm excellent. I'm happy. I'm sad. All of these are correct answers for how are you? And a similar question is, how do you feel? How do you feel? So let's take a look at that one now. How do you feel? How do you think you answer that? How do you feel? You just start with I feel, and then the adjective that you want. I feel good. I feel bad. I feel happy. I feel sad. All of those are correct answers. Next, what time do you wake up in the morning? So now we have a what time question, which if you have been in our school for a little while, you already know how to answer these questions. What time do you wake up in the morning? I wake up at blah, blah, blah. So I wake up at 6 o'clock. I wake up at 6:30. I wake up at 7 o'clock. I wake up at 9 o'clock. All of these are correct answers and not that hard to do. Do you go to school on Tuesdays? Do you go to school on Tuesdays? Do you? Yes, I do. Or, no, I don't. So no need to touch that one again. You already know how to answer it, but practice answering it on your own. At any time, you can pause the video and take a look at the questions and try to answer them in your own words. And finally, our last sentence, another easy one. Can you swim? Do you? Yes, I do. Can you? Yes, I can. So we're looking at, can you swim? Yes, I can swim. No, I can't swim. Those are your two choices. That's basically it. Okay, so that is the end of present simple tense. And for now, that is where we're going to stop this video. But if you tune in next time, we'll be learning a little bit about present continuous tense. And that one's a little different, in some ways easier, and in some ways maybe a little bit more challenging. All right, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.